I'm Drew Bob Wilson, chef, restaurant consultant, city dweller, and avid outdoorsman. In this week's episode of Foraging America, we're going to be trudging the marshes of southeast Texas. This unique region, nestled on the border of Louisiana and the Gulf of Mexico, hosts a variety of native plants and wild game, while simultaneously being stripped of its resources by invasive species. So we're putting on the mud boots and we're headed out to see what this land has to offer, both native and invasive. Balance. That state of homeostasis everything in nature strives for, down to the smallest forms. Molecules, atoms, protons and electrons, and their endless dance for equilibrium. Human influence has shifted the balance. The Native Americans really paid attention to the earth and how it worked. They paid attention to the seasons. They paid attention to the land they inhabited and the impact that it had in sustaining life in that region and shaping the cultures that they carry. My mission is to help restore that balance, even by the smallest of margins. Along the way, I'm rewarded with new friends and discovering new foods, ones hidden in plain sight. Local resident, conservationist, and overall bad mamma jamma, Callie Easterly gives me a history breakdown of this region of the Texas Gulf Coast.
We go back to the 1800s, before Houston was 680 square miles. This region connected up with a larger ecosystem and a larger region in Louisiana. So from about central Texas to the middle of Louisiana is historically what is known as the Chenier Plains region. And in Texas, we have very few of the cheniers left. And what cheniers are these prehistoric ridges in the earth that are Mother Nature's amazing protection against storm surge and sea level rise. So rice farming historically was a big business in Texas and Louisiana, and it's because of those natural depressions of cheniers. So they held water naturally, but when we started bulldozing those and flattening them, we started changing the landscape. And this was so important for protection because of the wetland system.
During my time in COVID quarantine, I did a lot of reading on foraging. And virtually stepping out of a Mad Max movie, I ran into Dr. Mark Merriweather Vordenbruggen, PhD chemist. After a few conversations with Merriweather, he agreed to help me secure foods from the marshy terrain.
Hopefully there aren't any alligators in here. But I'm standing amongst a bunch of cattails. These are really good food. They do require a little bit of digging, a little bit of muck to get at them. Whoa, so let me see if I can get some up here. The best thing to do is kind of cut around it and then pull it out of the ground. And what you're after is called the rhizome. So this, you peel off these little side roots. Again, with your shovel if you can. Peel it off. Yeah, I'll need a sharper one than this. And then you want to take this and you just want to set it on a fire. You blacken one side, flip it over, blacken the other side, and then you take it off the fire and you peel it open to get to the white pith on the inside and suck on it. You peel it out, it's like a wad of cotton inside. You suck on that, it tastes like graham crackers.
This open wood fire and graham cracker talk has me thinking s'mores. Marshmallows now tops my list of hopeful finds.
Goldenrod. I love goldenrod. This is something I use just about every day. It's really nice. It has a nice gingery sort of flavor to it, which is great in all sorts of foods or even pasta. It's actually mixed into the noodles themselves. It also has some medicinal properties, not certified by the FDA, mind you, but it's been shown to really help with the circulatory system and also the male reproductive system. And when collecting goldenrods, you only want like the top 3 inches. And by doing that, you get food The plant will continue to grow and actually put out 3 to 5 new shoots. This is really important for nature because at the end of these shoots in the fall will be the flowers, the goldenrod flowers, which is generally the last flower of the season for the bees. Normally you would just get one stalk of flowers, but by pruning it, by cutting it off, it will now send up 3 to 5 stalks, each with its own flower clusters. So by harvesting the goldenrod, you're actually increasing the food for the bees while getting good food and medicine for yourself.
So I'm gonna get a brief flavor profile on the goldenrod. So definitely picking up lots of spice, lots of pepper tones, as Mark was saying, some ginger, little hints of galangal. Really nice. Finishes off a bit bitter, but very tender. I can see this being an excellent filler for a pasta.
We have a nice stand of Goda Kuda. I never know if I'm pronouncing it right. But this is actually an invasive weed, but thankfully it's edible. Use it like mustard greens. I like to saute it in some bacon grease and throw maybe just a little bit more garlic in it, or maybe some actual chunks of bacon, and cook it up.
Upon further research of the gotu kola plant, the herb of longevity, or fountain of life as it's known, is being used in holistic medicines to treat anxiety, stress, depression, and even insomnia. Very nice, intense, herbaceous flavor going on here. I can see this being a really nice accompaniment to a steak or some chicken or really just anything. Very nice. Right now, harvesting these green briars here, which are like the wild asparagus. The greenbrier vine, or the smilax, was not easily obtained. We warded off wasps, fought off hornets, and fended off bees, mosquitoes, or at least I think they were mosquitoes. They were big enough to be birds of prey. Not to mention the nastiest thorns I've seen this side of the Mississippi River. There's just a few ideas running through my head, just based around asparagus and pastas, and being able to eat them raw has me going in all different types of directions. So.
All right, here we have curled dock, which I absolutely love because you can get a lot of seeds from it, and the seeds taste great. It's real easy to harvest. You just run your hands, pinch down, and collect the seeds like so. Now, there are husks around the seeds that you do have to remove. So the easiest thing, what I like to do, is just take these seeds off the plant, put them in a cast iron pan, toast them for just a few seconds to get them brittle. Once you have these seeds, they're really easy to use just as mixed into cream cheese and slapped on a Ritz cracker if you like a nutty sort of flavor, or they can be ground into a flour. It will be gluten-free though.
Just gonna harvest a few of these, as we don't need a whole lot, and we're not gonna bake bread with it today, so strip a few more of these guys off here.
Wild rose, the Cherokee rose.
It has a very tannic quality to it, almost like a bottle of red wine. Foraging, while fun and healthy activity, presents itself with a bit of hazard.
The key to foraging safely means paying attention to details. For instance, wild carrot, it has a ring of green lacy collar-like leaves around the base of the flowers, between the flowers and the stem, and then the stem of the wild carrot is hairy. Wild carrot is a wonderfully delicious plant. On the other hand, the poisonous hemlock, a close family member, has many of the same structural features, but if you look at its flowers, there is no green collar, there's no collar whatsoever, and the stem is smooth. So just those two little details are what you need to observe to tell the good from the bad. That's the same with any wild plant. You want to match at least 5 structural features between the plant and whatever resource you're using to identify the plant.
Well, this is the prickly ash, also known as the toothache tree, covered with these thorns, these spikes. But in the leaves and in the bark and in the berries is a naturally occurring novocaine. The berries of this are the same thing as the Szechuan peppercorns.
Has that resonating effect, that numbing effect on my tongue. I think it's very delicious. I love that sensation.
Some southern wax myrtle here, which think of it as a Cajun oregano.
Now, is this also something that you could dry?
Yep, where you would use oregano, but you want to give it a Cajun sort of zing to it.
Sounds delicious. As a chef, bringing these new ingredients into my pantry has my wheels turning.
Oh, I love pine trees. So from the needles, you can make a really high vitamin-rich concentration tea or a simple syrup. We also have a nice green pine cone. You can use that the same way as the pine needles. You want to chop it up, put it in the water.
I imagine when you're extracting the essential oil out of these young pine cones and needles that you're going to encounter a similar flavor profile as like a juniper or rosemary. So I'll just harvest a few more of these guys. Try to make a simple syrup, glaze for a pork or nice syrup for a cocktail after dinner. We've now spent quite a few hours in the field and have a bounty of ingredients, which need preparation and preservation to ensure the integrity of our harvest stays intact. I extracted the essence from the pine cones and the needles by making a simple syrup, by adding water, sugar, palm sugar to the pine. I gently reduce the mixture into a syrup. The smells being emitted from the pot are instantly giving me ideas. A gin cocktail's in order. The celebration will have to wait though, as there's more work in store for me. Using butcher twine, I tied prickly ash and Cajun oregano to dry for later use. I blanched and shocked goldenrod and gotu kola. Keep it nice and firm and versatile. If it's overcooked, it'll become a bit slimy. There is a salad from Japan called a gomai salad, which is basically a sesame salad with blanched spinach. Am I really gonna make a foraged version of a salad that I once riffed on? The inspiration I'm gonna use is the wilted goldenrod and gotu kola greens in lieu of spinach. To the wilted greens, I added the Cherokee rose petals, dock seeds, pistachio and pumpkin seeds, wild strawberry and blackberry, red and green onion for texture, and dressed all of this with a concoction of palm sugar, soy sauce, rice vinegar, sesame oil, ginger, and scallion. I now know exactly what this dish needed. The pink evening primrose flower will add color, fragrance, and elegance to this dish. An earthy play on this salad, similar in texture and profile, the goldenrod gomai. With feral hogs wreaking havoc on farmland and feed for livestock, Cali deals with these problems on a regular basis. I'm gaining inspiration from the ingredients that we've gathered, but I need something substantial. Let's balance both menu and habitat and go after a feral hog.
Yeah, absolutely. The feral hog population is completely invasive. You know, we battle the hog situation and overpopulating all across the U.S., tearing up water control structures, eating cattle feed. According to Texas Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, the feral hog population has exceeded 1.5 million. They also spend upwards of $4 million per year in control efforts. After discussing the Cheniere Plains and the invasive feral hog species with Cali, I was ready to set out and see if I couldn't find some of those bad boys. So I head out with a capable rifle, the Bergara 308 HMR Pro, in an attempt to do my part.
and hopefully bag a sustainable source of protein, I'm already naturally thinking tacos. God, I love tacos. Sure enough, 3 pigs emerge from the brush to feed. So I ready myself. I steady my aim. I hone in on the target. Bam! Miss. I'm gonna have to find another source of protein out here on this marsh. Local resident and marshman and airboat virtuoso, Tommy England has agreed to take us out in this marsh. He grew up out here and knows this swamp like the back of his hand. I couldn't help myself but to think, if this airboat goes down, just how many creatures we'd have to fight to get home.
We're going to be getting bullfrogs and yellowthroats tonight.
Bullfrogs and yellowthroat frogs.
Yep, that's what we'll be catching. They're native to this area, so we'll be getting a lot of them tonight.
So which species is larger or smaller?
The bullfrog will be larger.
Tastier?
The yellowthroat, my opinion.
Your opinion, tasty
My
throats?
opinion. Yep.
All right. And off we went to chase down one of the most plentiful, sustainable sources of protein in these shallow waters. I must say, collecting the yellowthroats and bullfrogs was not for the squeamish. Growing up in Cajun country in South Louisiana, anything that moved around in the bayou could easily find itself in a pot. It reminded me that food should not be fast or easy. Each of us on that airboat paid a blood sacrifice to the mosquitoes, which at times tried to carry us off into the cattails. We eased our pain of the mosquitoes and headed back in after collecting our fair share of frogs. I get up the next morning eager to get back into the kitchen, but first I must say farewell to Meriwether. Well, Dr. Mark, I really appreciate you coming out here, educating us on the wildlife that's here, abundant on this property, and basically for making me a more versatile chef and a better custodian of the planet.
There's so much around us that we can eat and use as medicine that people seem to have forgotten about. My goal is just to reattach people to the nature, and one of the side effects of that is once they start eating nature, they have another reason to love nature.
For sure. After cleaning up our catch, I wanted to lay down a base of flavor by adding a marinade. Starting with toothache tree leaves and Cajun oregano, I had soy sauce, orange juice, ginger, and garlic. To finish off the marinade, I add to the frog legs a chili oil made with Szechuan peppercorn, the same peppercorn from the tree. So I'm going to gather my ingredients and head to JW's Patio in nearby Beaumont, Texas. We're going from cattails to cocktails. Owner John Wilson has agreed to let us invade his kitchen and offer some of his guests our goods from the woods. We are here in Beaumont, Texas, at JW's Patio. Here behind the bar at JW's Patio in Beaumont, I'm gonna make the gin Pine Belt drink. I'm gonna start off with 1.5 ounces of gin, using a nice neutral gin here to add a nice punch of this syrup that we made. A little lemon juice, give it some acidity, trying to balance out sweetness. Hit it with some ice. Ginger beer is going to go in at the end. Fizz. And then we'll garnish it off with a little rosemary so you have the Pine Belt cocktail. Having pine trees in my yard as a kid, the smell brought me back. I wanted something that I could sip on in the summer shade. But let's see what these regulars have to say.
It's very unique tasting. I enjoy the pineapple with the rosemary. You can definitely taste that, but I like how the flavors in it are very, there's a lot of fruity flavors in
Unique.
it.
I actually said flavorful. Refreshing. Yeah, that's really delicious. Like you can, it just tastes like botanical. Like, you can taste the pine simple syrup in there, but it brings it all together.
It tastes really good. It's very citrusy.
I wanted a crispy frog leg, almost Korean fried. I first started by tossing them in cornstarch. I let them rest for 2 hours on a tray, forming a nice little shell. This will ensure a nice crunch. After meeting up with local food finder Ty Gwynn, he brought to me a Carolina Gold rice being farmed locally in the Golden Triangle. The rice has been pulverized into a flour. I think this Carolina Gold rice flour will be a nice crust to my frog leg. After frying them up to a golden brown, I whip up a little pepperoncini aioli, and they're ready for tasting.
Lightly battered, nice and crisp, excellent.
They're delicious. Very good.
Tastes like chicken.
I've always loved making pasta. I'm certainly no master at it. I've taken classes and worked in Italian restaurants. I mix flour, egg, and salt to start a dough for my pasta. After forming a nice dough, I let that rest for 2 hours, rolling and folding and rolling and folding. A nice, smooth, translucent dough. And with a background in cheese making, I knew a fresh ricotta would be the perfect seat for these greens to sit upon. After making my curds and letting the cheese rest, I make a filling with goldenrod, greenbrier, lemon zest, and a little red chili flake. We want to fill the pasta and get rolling. We spread the herb and ricotta mixture on the rolled out dough and brush the edges with the egg wash. We fill and seal the pasta. I construct a pan sauce of brown butter, olives, tomato, and garlic. I cook the foraged green and ricotta ravioli and top them with Parmesan cheese, and they're ready for the table.
It's a very fresh flavor. Delicious.
The mixtures of the sauces and vegetables, a great touch. I love it.
So good. So delicious.
great.
It was delicious on even a full stomach. It's creamy and good. Just a good treat.
Very
Thank
tasty.
you so much.
After seeing the reaction of the general public, it made me hopeful. 25 years as a chef has taught me many things. I've cooked for presidents and pro athletes, the rich and the famous, and the homeless and hungry. One thing's for sure, we all need food security. We all deserve a chance at good, nutritious food. I'd like to thank John, Meriwether, Callie, and Tommy for all their help. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Foraging America.